There's a man in Bangladesh who wakes up at 4 in the morning, walks 3 miles to a brick kiln, and spends the next 14 hours carrying loads of clay on his back in heat that would make most Americans collapse within an hour. He does this 6 days a week. He has done this for 27 years. His hands are permanently calloused. His spine is curved from the weight he has borne, and his annual income is approximately $800. Meanwhile, there's a 24-year-old in Austin, Texas, who woke up at 11 this morning, spent 2 hours repositioning a few lines of code in a trading algorithm he built last year, and then went to lunch. He will earn more money today than the Bangladeshi worker will earn in a decade. This is not an exaggeration. This is not a hypothetical. This is the brutal, uncomfortable arithmetic of modern wealth that nobody wants to discuss because it shatters the most sacred myth we've been fed since childhood, that hard work creates wealth. It does not. Hard work in isolation is the most inefficient wealth-building strategy ever conceived, and the fact that you still believe in it might be the single greatest obstacle standing between you and financial freedom. My name is Godwin. Today, I am going to dismantle the ideology of effort that has been programmed into your operating system since you were old enough to understand language. I am going to show you why the correlation between hours worked and dollars earned is not just weak, but often inverse at the highest levels of wealth creation. And I am going to reveal the actual variables that separate the financially enslaved from the financially sovereign. If you are someone who values high-level financial clarity over the recycled platitudes you find in motivational content, you may want to join this network by subscribing. What I discuss here is not designed to make you feel good. It is designed to make you see clearly. Let us begin. The phrase "work hard" is perhaps the most successfully propagated piece of economic propaganda in human history. Consider its brilliance as a control mechanism. It takes the natural human desire for dignity and achievement. It channels that energy into labor that primarily benefits asset owners, and frames any failure to achieve wealth as a personal moral failing rather than a systemic misunderstanding. You did not work hard enough. You did not sacrifice enough. You did not want it badly enough. This framing is perfect for maintaining economic hierarchies because it makes the exploited complicit in their own exploitation. They do not question the system. They question themselves. And they return to the grind with renewed determination, convinced that another decade of effort will finally unlock the prosperity they were promised. But here's what nobody tells you in school or at the dinner table or in those inspirational posters hanging in corporate break rooms. Effort is an input, not a determinant. The value of your effort is not measured by its intensity or its duration. It is measured by the system through which that effort is processed. A hamster on a wheel is exerting tremendous effort. It is going absolutely nowhere. And many of you watching this are sophisticated, educated hamsters who have simply built more elaborate wheels. Let me introduce you to a concept that will reframe everything you think you know about earning potential. It is called leverage, and it is the variable that separates linear income from exponential wealth. Linear income is what happens when you trade time for money directly. You work an hour, you get paid for an hour. You work more hours, you get paid for more hours. There is a ceiling built into this model, and that ceiling is the number of hours you can physically work before your body breaks down. Most professionals operate entirely within this linear paradigm. The doctor earning $400,000 a year is still fundamentally trapped in linear income. She cannot see more than a certain number of patients. She cannot operate more than a certain number of hours. Her income is capped by her personal bandwidth, and her lifestyle is capped by her income. She is wealthy relative to the median, but she is not free. She cannot stop working without her income stopping. She has built a high-paying job, not a wealth engine. Contrast this with leverage. Leverage is the art of decoupling your effort from your output. It is a multiplication of your impact through systems, capital, technology, or other people's time. When a software developer builds an application once and sells it to 1 million users, she has leveraged code. When an investor deploys capital into an asymmetric opportunity, he has leveraged money. When an entrepreneur builds a team that operates without his daily involvement, he has leveraged labor. In each case, the initial effort is similar, but the output is amplified by orders of magnitude. The question is not how hard are you working. The question is what is the multiplication factor on your effort. Now, I want you to ask yourself something deeply uncomfortable. How much of your current work is actually building leverage, and how much of it is simply maintaining your position on the linear income treadmill? Be honest, because most people, when they examine their professional lives with clarity, discover that 90% of their effort goes into activities that will never compound. They are serving clients who will need to be served again tomorrow. They are completing tasks that will regenerate next week. They are solving problems that are symptoms of their business model, rather than building assets that eliminate those problems permanently. This is the trap of operational labor versus capital labor. Operational labor keeps the machine running. Capital labor builds new machines. And the wealthy understand at a visceral level that every hour spent on operations is an hour stolen from capital creation. This is why the most successful entrepreneurs become obsessed with removing themselves from their own businesses. It is not laziness. It is strategic clarity. They understand that their highest value activity is not doing work, but designing systems that do work without them. Consider the mathematics of this for a moment. If you earn $100 per hour as a skilled professional and you work 2,000 hours per year, your income is $200,000. Respectable. But your income is completely bounded by time. Now consider an alternative path. You spend 1 year building a digital asset, perhaps an online course, perhaps a software tool, perhaps a content library, that generates $50,000 annually in passive revenue. Your hourly rate during that creation year appears low. But in year 2, you build another asset, and another. By year 5, you have 5 assets generating $250,000 annually, and your ongoing time investment is perhaps 10 hours per week on maintenance and optimization. Your effective hourly rate is now incomprehensible by traditional standards. More importantly, your income is no longer bounded by time. It is bounded only by your ability to create and deploy leverage. This is the asymmetric upside that the wealthy chase while the middle class chases raises. But here is where the deception goes even deeper. The work-hard mythology is not just strategically inefficient. It is psychologically destructive. It creates what I call the effort-identity fusion, where your sense of self-worth becomes inseparable from your level of busyness. You start to feel guilty when you are not working. You start to measure your value as a human being by your productivity metrics. You enter a state of perpetual motion that feels like progress, but is actually just sophisticated procrastination, because the hardest work of all, the work of strategic thinking, of ruthless prioritization, of saying no to good opportunities, so you can say yes to great ones. This work often looks like doing nothing. It looks like staring out a window. It looks like taking a long walk. It looks like sleeping on a decision rather than executing immediately. And the person trapped in the work-hard paradigm cannot do this. They feel compelled to fill every moment with visible effort, even when that effort is actively counterproductive. They are optimizing for the feeling of productivity rather than the reality of results. This is why so many hard-working people stay poor. Their relationship with work has become pathological. They are addicted to sensation of effort, and like all addicts, they are destroying themselves in pursuit of their next fix. Let's talk about something even more uncomfortable: the role of capital itself in wealth creation. There's a threshold in personal finance, usually somewhere between $500,000 and $2 million in liquid investable assets, where money begins to work harder than you ever could. Below this threshold, your labor is your primary economic engine. Above it, your capital becomes dominant. The wealthy understand this transition intimately, and they structure their entire lives around crossing this threshold as quickly as possible. They live below their means not out of frugality for its own sake, but because every dollar saved is a dollar that can be converted into capital that works without sleeping, without complaining, without needing health care or retirement benefits. A single dollar invested at 10% returns for 40 years becomes $45. That is $44 created by capital, not by labor. Now multiply that by hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you begin to understand why the wealthy seem to get wealthier almost automatically. It is not magic. It is mathematics. But it is mathematics that only works if you stop bleeding money into lifestyle inflation and start channeling your income into capital accumulation. And this brings me to the final piece of the puzzle, perhaps the most important piece. The wealthy do not just work differently. They think differently. They have escaped what psychologists call the hedonic treadmill, the tendency to return to a baseline level of happiness regardless of external achievements or acquisitions. Most people, when they earn more money, immediately expand their lifestyle to match. Bigger house, nicer car, more expensive vacations. The result is that they feel no wealthier than before because their expenses have risen in lockstep with their income. They are running faster on the treadmill, but they are still going nowhere. The wealthy break this cycle by decoupling their identity from their consumption. They drive modest cars not because they cannot afford better, but because they understand the opportunity cost. That $50,000 not spent on a luxury vehicle is $50,000 deployed into assets that will generate income forever. They live in reasonable homes not because they lack ambition, but because they recognize that real estate as a primary residence is a consumption decision, not an investment decision. They wear simple clothes not because they are ascetic, but because they have internalized that status signaling through material goods is a game played by people who have not yet won the real game. So where does this leave you? What is the actionable insight you can take from this analysis? It is simple, but it requires a complete rewiring of your mental models. You must stop asking how can I work harder and start asking how can I build leverage. You must audit your current efforts ruthlessly and eliminate everything that is operational rather than capital building. You must become obsessed with crossing the threshold where your capital works harder than your labor. You must decouple your identity from your consumption and redirect that energy into asset accumulation. And perhaps most importantly, you must reject the work-hard mythology that has been programmed into you since birth. It is not serving you. It is serving the people who benefit from your labor. The factory owners in the industrial age needed workers who believed that hard work was virtuous. The corporation executives today need employees who believe that grinding is noble. But you are not an employee. You are not a worker. You are a capital allocator, whether you have realized it yet or not. Every hour of your life, every dollar of your income, is a resource that can be deployed either into operations that maintain your current position or into capital that multiplies your future position. The poor deploy into operations. The middle class deploy into operations and a little bit of capital. The wealthy deploy into capital and use systems to handle operations. That is the difference. That is a secret that nobody explains because explaining it undermines the entire narrative structure that keeps the labor economy functioning. The next time someone tells you to work harder, I want you to hear what they are really saying. They are saying stay in your lane. They are saying keep trading time for money. They are saying remain predictable, remain controllable, remain a reliable input into someone else's wealth engine. And I want you to smile politely, nod thoughtfully, and then quietly return to building your own leverage. Because the future does not belong to the hardest workers. It belongs to the smartest architects. And now you know the difference.